Hey everyone, Tina off the No Barfield here. Welcome to Writer's Corner. Now before I get to the main content of this video, let's address the mammal swine in the room, shall we? First off, my haircut. Yes, I do realize it's shorter. I have looked in a mirror recently. Thank you. I decided to cut it as a birthday present for my mom's birthday, because this is how she likes my haircut, so this is how I cut it. It was great, she loved it, fantastic, it worked. Now the next thing. I'm wearing a jacket, indoors. What's up with that? Well, it's starting to get a bit chilly where I am in Idaho, and my room is in the basement, which only ups the cold factor. So I decided to bust out the winter gear, which I'm actually pretty excited about. But really, this just all means that I'm not going to get hot in my Halloween costume, which I've been planning for months now. Now that I've gotten all of this out of the way, I can get to the fun part of the video, writing! So recently, I've been redoing some of my older videos, and I just decided to start at the very beginning, which means that this video is going to be about subplots, which are like regular plots, but different. Though seriously, I will be covering what subplots actually are, as well as some do's and don'ts to consider when writing them, and just how to effectively use them in your story.
But no, seriously, what are the actual definition of a subplot? Come on, tell us.
Well, the definition of a subplot, as defined by Merriam-Webster, is a plot line that is related to but less important than the main plot in a story. Basically, subplots are here to add intricacy, complexity, strife, happiness, character development opportunities, and a whole host of other things just to round out your story and keep it spicy and interesting. Which is not to say that your main plot shouldn't already be spicy and interesting. It should be immediately attention-grabbing, automatically capture the focus and attention of your readers right from the very beginning, from the first page. But your subplots are here to make sure that your story is more rounded out, and also to hurt and help your characters whenever they need it. It helps me, anyway, to think of subplots as kind of like a knit pattern. Now I don't know if there's like a load-bearing thread or stitch in a knit pattern because I really don't know much about knitting, but for the purpose of this example, let's say there is. And your main plot is like the load-bearing stitch or thread in this pattern. It's the primary focus, it's what's going to give your entire pattern shape. However, subplots are there to interweave in and out of each other and your main plot, adding extra depth, dimension, and complexity to this already amazing singular thread. But it's going to help increase the positive image overall to whoever's going to be observing this pattern. And there are actually several different ways to do this because there's several different kinds of subplot. So first off, structurally, you have the quick kind of subplot, which stops almost as soon as it starts. It's careful not to overuse these, or else you can imagine a tree trunk with just a bunch of short, stabby little branches that don't really do anything except overall hurt it and dilute the nutrients that the tree can receive. So these things are commonly quickly resolving, if temporarily resolving, a crisis that comes up. Perhaps you're quickly establishing a connection between characters, or resolving an issue that happened immediately. Maybe you're burying one of the comrades, and this is going to have long-lasting traumatic effects on your hero, but you're at least getting the minor death subplot out of the way. They're just little quick things that can have a positive or negative impact on your characters and story, but overall they're just quick little distractions. Maybe your evil villain is using this little subplot over here to distract your heroes so that they can build this grandiose evil machine. I don't know, it's up to you. But they're commonly quick little things that shoot off and then will come back into the story and really only have one or two effects on the thing overall. Next, you have parallel subplots, which, as the name implies, run parallel to your story. Say you have a story about a detective trying to solve all of these homicides by this serial killer, and the main story is about this detective and all the emotional strife that they go through and all of the family troubles they have at home, as well as the old parent that they're trying to impress with the responsibilities on their shoulders of the entire department because they failed before but they can't really fail this time. It's really crucial, and they're looking at the facts and all of the traumatic things, and maybe the internet plays into it with like lots of goading on the net and all this fun stuff that's really going to crush this character and be a really fun read. But parallel to that, with this main character, all of their main plot and subplots, you have this parallel subplot. It's the psychopathic serial killer that helps add depth and complexity to the story and allows you to understand the fundamental differences between these two characters and what they want. Commonly, parallel subplots will only converge with the main plot once, maybe twice in a story, oftentimes with big changes and effects in store for your narrative. After that, you have interweaving subplots, which just kind of interweave in and out of your story, commonly having a noticeable effect each time. Whether it's a comedic relief character coming back in, or perhaps it's a rogue alien squadron that your hero upset them because they had to enslave their main homeworld to crush the uprising that threatened the intergalactic trade system, but this alien threat rogue squadron rebellion thing has not forgotten this hero or their family, and they're coming for them, time and time again. These are interweaving subplots, which oftentimes have smaller effects than the other ones, but come in again and again, and are great for recurring crises or characters in your story. And then lastly, you have what I like to call the forget-me-not subplot, which is introduced at the very beginning and then comes in again only at the very end. Say you have this hero slaying goblins and trying to receive this mystic power crystal or whatever generic RPG story you want to throw into your story. And they receive this generic power crystal thing that can help save them from the Goblin King or whatever you're doing, and they accidentally knock over this old base, and it's like, oh, no big deal, and they're little wisps of smoke, but they're too busy crushing these hordes of goblins that are just wave after wave throwing themselves. And then at the end of the story, after they've defeated the Goblin King and everything seems fine, out of the corner of their eye they notice, across the volcanic wastelands, little wisps of smoke rising up everywhere, and they know the fight is only just beginning. That's a forget-me-not subplot. It comes in at the beginning and it comes in at the end, with the story building up the suspense of it the entire time. Bring up a problem and then you really make it big for the next book, or you bring up a problem and then resolve it in like a, just desserts kind of fashion for your character to get revenge or justice, whatever you want. And then you have a couple of different generic kinds of subplots, which are helping and hurting subplots. Helping subplots help your story in various different positive ways, building relationships, creating happiness, giving your character development and growth opportunities, helping you grow as a person. All of that fun stuff, okay? And then you have the hurting subplots, which is the way that you get to really pile down the crap on your character until they just have to shovel through the mud and dirt and filth that you've layered on them to get to their goal, and then maybe even then they fail a little bit. Fun stuff. But now the very important question arises, when do you use a subplot? Yeah, they're all fantastic, but how do you keep it from getting into this giant mess tangled of yarn that you want to give to your cat because you don't want to deal with it anymore? Well, a great way to use a subplot, and a great position to use a subplot, is whenever you need your character to undergo some trials. Oh, your character is doing fine? Subplot. Make them have to, deal with the death of one of their comrades. Subplots are there to change the tide of the story and the emotions that are affected therein. So if things are getting a little bleak, have a positive subplot. If things are getting a little too happy, have a negative subplot. Overall, this is going to be a giant knit pattern that's going to be interweaving together. So it's best to use subplots in important points of your story and to have it planned out from the very beginning. Which brings me to a few points on how you keep your story tightly knit and you don't let it spiral out of control. So my first point has to be to plan ahead. If you want your story to be tight and cohesive, and you're going to use subplots in optimal, effective fashions for your story, and key elements in places where it's going to add character development and depth, then you're going to need to plan this ahead. I don't really plan things with my stories. I write, I let the creativity flow, and then I think about it and I fix it as time goes on. But oftentimes whenever I'm planning the plot structure of my story, I plan it out, either mentally or I record it vocally, I write it down, something, so I know where the main plot starts, stops, all of the action and details that lie therein, as well as how the subplots weave in and out of the story, starting and stopping and connecting with each other. Next, I keep the destination in mind. I keep in mind where I want the story to end up, subplots and all. Do I want it to end with a foreboding threat, a minor cliffhanger, a major cliffhanger, everything tidied and wrapped up, or a little bit of an ominous door, just a little open? It's important to keep in mind the destination of your story, not just where you want your main plot to end up, but all the little subplots and issues and characters you brought into it. And finally, I plot with a purpose. I don't just create these subplots left and right to make sure, oh, well, this guy is sad, let's give him, I don't know, a bounce house. Oh, this girl is doing quite well, let's have her boyfriend die. No, it has to have an effect on the story, positive or negative. It has to be meaningful. Subplots aren't just there to give your story shape, they're there to add meaning, depth, and complexity to it. They're there to add strife and development opportunities. They're there to help your characters grow outside of the main context of your plot, while also furthering the intricacies and complexity of the main plot itself. They're there to add details and depth. They're not there just to be lazy, just to make sure that, oh, well, I can't fit this in my main plot, so let's throw it over here. I plot with a purpose. I make sure every subplot has its purpose, has its point where it enters, exits, maybe re-enters, I don't know however many times it does. I make sure that each one has a purpose and I plan it all out ahead of time. Now, this is basically all I have to say on subplots. I did almost 2 weeks of research for this, and this is mostly what I came up with. I'll be listing some of the helpful links I found below in the description, as well as the links to my novel Legend Land, which you can buy on Amazon. Like this beautiful thing right here. You can get exactly this on Amazon or my store, www.arc-storm.com, or you can buy it on Barnes & Noble or a ton of other places. Really, you can get it almost anywhere. Just like you can follow me almost anywhere. Facebook, Twitter, just a bunch of places, or leave a comment below. Don't forget to subscribe because I love hearing from all of you guys, and don't forget to contact me if you have questions or would like to see something new in my videos. I hope this has been helpful, thank you for watching, and I hope you continue to enjoy.